Good day, everyone. We are now in the obligation and contract part two of the different kinds of obligation. It's the pure and conditional obligation. Okay, let's start. We are going to discuss 1181. Okay. 1181 states that in the conditional obligation, the acquisition of rights as well as the extinguishment or loss of those already acquired shall depend upon the happening of the event which constitute the condition. Now, what are the effects of happening of condition? Okay, comment it down below. Okay, the acquisition of rights. Okay, the acquisition of rights in obligation subject to a suspensive condition. The acquisition of rights by the creditor depends upon the happening of the event which constitute the condition. Okay, here the surrender of a sweepstake ticket is a condition precedent to the payment of the price. So, what characterizes this kind of obligation is that the fact that its efficacy or obligatory force, as distinguished from demandability, is subordinate to the happening of a future and uncertain event. It follows that if the suspensive condition does not take place and it is certain that it will not be fulfilled, the parties would stand as if the conditional obligation had never existed. Okay. During the pendency of the suspensive condition, the creditor has only a mere hope of expectancy of acquiring a right, diba? For example, yung surrendering of ticket nga, this is not demandability, it's supposed to be surrendered. So where the loan of X and Y were supposed to become due on the only at the time Y receives from Z the proceeds of the approved financing scheme. In sales, with assumption of mortgage, and the assumption of mortgage by the buyer is a conditional precedent to the seller mortgager consent to the sale. Okay, so for example, we have here the example. uh, T, the testator, in his last will and testament gave some property to H, uh, provided T would die within 2 years. Okay. Ang condition, mabibigay yung property to H if T, yung testator, yung magpapamana, would die within 2 years. In this case, H would acquire the right to the land only upon the happening of the suspensive condition, the death of T within 2 years. If there is no length of time within which the death must take place, the obligation is one with a period. If T dies after 2 years, the situation would be the same as if no provision have made by T in his will in favor of H. That's the example of another one. The loss number two effect is the loss of rights already acquired. In resolutory condition, the happening of the event which constitute the condition due exists extinguishment or loss of right is already acquired. For example, an example of this is um, if X bind himself to support Y until Y graduates from college. So, si X bind himself to support si Y hanggang makatapos siya ng college where the right already acquired by Y. The right to receive support, di ba? Yung the right to receive support, meron na shall be extinguished or lost once the condition is fulfilled. Pag nakagraduate na siya, wala na yung obligation no na-extinguish na. S, number 2 example, S sold to B a parcel of land subject to S right of repurchase. The ownership already acquired by B under the contract shall be extinguished or lost should S exercise his right to repurchase. Diba? Another one is a lease contract expressly stipulates that R, the lessor, may terminate the lease in case his children shall need a leased premise. Here, the happening of the condition depends upon the will of the third person, yung R's children. Okay? The if one effect of non-compliance with resolutory condition is when the contract is subject to a resolutory condition, non-compliance with or non-fulfillment of the condition resolves the contract by force of law without the need of the judicial intervention. Okay, in Article 1182, okay, it states that when the fulfillment of a condition depends upon the sole will of the debtor, the conditional obligation shall be void. If it depends upon chance or upon the will of the third person, the obligation shall take effect in conformity with the provision of this code. Okay. What are the classification of condition? Okay. The condition as to the effect, it is classified as to the effect, the suspensive and resolutory. Suspensive, the happening of which gives rise to an obligation. Ang resolutory naman, the happening of which extinguish the obligation. Yung resolutory ay suspensive kapag um, na-fulfill yung obligation, na-fulfill yung condition, magkakaroon ng obligation. Sa resolutory, pag na-fulfill ang obligation, pag na-fulfill ang condition, ma-extinguish ang obligation. Matatapos na. Okay. Pangalawa, as to form. So, express and implied. Once you said express, the condition is clearly stated. While pag implied, the condition is mere inferred. Okay. Parang andyan na. Parang andyan na lang siya. Ang express kasi, clear sa dalawang party na meron talagang condition. Okay, number 3, as to possibility. Possible and impossible. Pag sinabi mong possible, the condition is capable of fulfillment legally and physically. Ibig sabihin, ang condition ay pwede siyang ma-fulfill. Pag impossible, syempre, the condition is capable of non-fulfillment or legally or physically. Hindi siya mangyayari. Okay. Next classification is as to the cost of origin. Potestative and casual and mixed. Okay. Pag sinabi mong potestative, the condition depends upon the will of one of the contracting parties. Pag casual naman, the condition depends upon the chance or upon the will of the third party. Kapag mixed, ang condition depends partly upon the chance or partly upon the will of the third person. The next classification, as to the mode. Positive and negative. Pag positive, the condition consists of a performance of the act. Pag sinabi mong negative, the condition consists in the omission of an act. Okay. Number 6, as to the number, conjunctive and disjunctive. Pag sinabing conjunctive, there are several conditions and all all must be fulfilled. Pag disjunction, there are several conditions and only one or some of it must be fulfilled. Pag conjunctive, lahat ng condition kailangan magawa. Pag disjunctive, kahit isa or iba lang ang ma-fulfill, it is enough. Pag number 7, divisibility. Divisible and indivisible. Pag sinabing divisible, the condition is susceptible of partial performance. And pag indivisible, kailangan hindi siya, the condition is not susceptible or partial performance. Kailangan magawa lahat. Okay. Where suspensive condition depends upon the will of the debtor. Okay. The condition obligation is void because its validity and compliance is left to the will of the debtor, and it cannot therefore be legally demandable, but no burden to the debtor and no judicial tie. Number 2, only the condition is condition void. If the obligation is a pre-existing one and does not depend upon the fulfillment of the condition, only the condition is void, leaving the obligation unaffected. Okay. Okay, I'm done with this. Nadoble lang. In Article 1183, impossible condition, those contrary to good custom or public policy and those prohibited by law shall annul the obligation which depends upon them. If the obligation is divisible, that part thereof which is not affected by the impossible or unlawful condition shall be valid. The condition not to do an impossible thing shall be considered as not having been agreed upon. Okay. When Article 1183 is not applicable, or it doesn't apply, or it refers to suspensive condition. Pag applies to cases where the impossibility already existed and the time the obligation was constituted. There are two kinds of possible condition. The physical impossible condition, which cannot exist or cannot be done, and legally impossible condition, contrary to law, moral, good custom, public order, or public policy. Okay. The effect of impossible condition. The effect of impossible condition is number 1, conditional obligation void. Impossible condition, annul the obligation. So the conditional testamentary disposition or simple and remonitory donation, and the rule is different. Conditional obligation is void if the condition is negative. That is not to do an impossible thing. It is disregard, and the obligation is rendered pure and valid. Actually, the condition is always fulfilled when it is not to do an impossible thing, so that it is the same as there were no condition at all. So the negative condition may not be to give an impossible thing. Example, I will sell you a land if you do not carry you do not carry 20 kabans of palay in your shoulder. Or I will sell you my land if you do not give me a dog that talks. The obligations are pure and therefore demandable at once. Okay. Number three effect of impossible condition is the only effect of obligation void if the obligation is divisible. The part thereof not affected by the impossible condition shall be valid. Okay. Example, I will give you 10,000 if you sell the land and the car if you kill Pedro. Okay. The obligation to give 10,000 is valid, but the obligation to give the car is void because it is dependent upon the impossible condition. So number four, only the condition is void if the obligation is a pre-existing obligation and therefore does not depend upon the fulfillment of the condition which is impossible for its existence, only the condition is void. For example, they borrowed 10,000 from C. If C later agreed to kill X before D pays him, the condition to kill X is void, but not the pre-existing obligation of D to pay C. Yung babayaran niya si C. Okay. Article 1184. Article 1184 states that the condition that some event happens at a determinate time shall extinguish the obligation as soon as the time expired, or if it has become indebatable and the event will not take place. So there's a positive condition. There's a positive condition. It refers to a positive or suspensive condition. So the happening of the event at a determinate time, the obligation is extinguished as soon as the time expires without the event taking place, or as soon as it has become indebatable and the event will not take place, although the time uh, specified has not expired yet. Okay. Example, the example, the X obliged himself to give B 10,000 if B will marry C before B reaches the age of 23. So, yung una, X is liable to B if B married C become before he reached the age of 23. So, X is not liable to B if X will not be liable to if B marries C at the age of 23 or after he reached the age of 23. In this case, the time specified is before reaching the age of 23 has expired without the condition marrying C being fulfilled. The obligation is extinguished as soon as B becomes 23 years old. Or if B die, for example, B die at the age of 22 without having married C, the obligation is extinguished because it has become indebatable that the condition will not take place. In this case, the obligation of X is deemed extinguished from the death of B, although the time is specified before reaching the age of 23 and not yet expired. Okay. Article 1185. The condition of some event will not happen at the determinate time shall render the obligation effective from the moment the time indicated has elapsed, or if it has become evident that the event cannot occur. If no time has been fixed, the condition shall be deemed fulfilled of at such time as may have probably been contemplated, bearing in mind the nature of the obligation. Okay, this is the negative condition. The 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 above provision speaks of the negative condition that the event will not happen at a determinate time. The obligation shall become effective and binding from the moment the time indicated has lapsed without the event, or the event cannot occur although time has not yet elapsed. If no time is fixed, the circumstances shall be considered to determine the intention of the party. Same is applicable to a positive obligation. So example, X binds himself to give B 10,000 if B is not yet married to C in December 30. If X is not liable to B if B marries C on December 30 or prior to December. X is liable naman to B if on November 30, B is not yet married to C. And if B marries C after December 30, the condition is fulfilled upon the expiration of the time indicated, which is December 30. Suppose C dies on November 20 without having married to B. The obligation is rendered effective because it is certain that the condition not to marry C will be fulfilled. In this case, the obligation becomes effective from the moment C's death on November 20, although the time uh, indicated has not yet elapsed or expired. Article 1186. So Article 1186, the condition shall be deemed fulfilled when the obligor voluntarily prevents its fulfillment. Okay. There are three requisites for this application. The condition is suspensive. The obligor actually prevents the fulfillment of the condition, and he acts voluntary intentionally. The law does not acquire that the obligor acts with malice or fraud, as long as his purpose is to prevent the fulfillment of the condition. He should not be allowed to profit from his own fault or bad faith. Okay. The constructive fulfillment of resolutory condition applies also to an obligation subject to resolutory condition with respect to the debtor, who is bound to return what he has received upon the fulfillment of the condition. Oh guys, up to this portion only, we shall have the party in a little while, and then please comment down below of what you have understand, and take note of the question you want to answer during our discussion. Class, if you are new to my channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified in case I'm going to upload a video prior to our lesson, so you can view or listen to the lecture prior to our recitation. Okay, that's all guys, and have a great day ahead of you. Thank you. Bye.